Hi everyone, so great to have you with us here again for our topical conversations that we're having with Dr. Chris. And Chris, thanks for coming in again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to have you. What I wanted to ask you, so how are you doing? How are you, how are you keeping yourself healthy and well, both physically and mentally these days?
I've been really busy and it's been really hard to stay on top of exactly that kind of thing. When I get busy, one of the first things that goes away is exercise, and then making sure I'm drinking like enough water. I tend to change it out for coffee. It's not good. And then I'm usually not eating very well either.
Yeah.
So you know what? There's probably a lot there that I could fix up.
Wow.
To be honest, since you asked.
Sounds like it's going to be an interesting conversation. Hey,
right.
So we've got this Jenga here. I'm not really good at this game, I have to admit.
Good.
So do you mind if I go first?
Sure, go ahead.
And I don't even know where to start. I'll do this and my kids will go, why did you... Oh, look, that one's an easy one.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. There we go.
Brilliant. I think this is surprisingly, this is going to be tricky because it's starting to move the whole thing out.
I've seen them do it on giant Jenga and it doesn't seem to worry too much. If this collapses... Oh, well, that was a short-lived game.
That's all right.
Do we want to set it up again? Chris,
Well,
could you maybe go through some routines that might be helpful for self-care? And
yeah, look, the self-care there's a lot, I think, of misinformation about self-care, because when you see people talk about self-care and they're sharing their pics on Instagram and that kind of thing, it's always, they've rubbed something on their face and it's candles, or maybe they're, sitting in a bath, or, there's all sorts of things about self-care. And it's really, I want to try and blow that out of the water. It's not the same thing as pampering yourself. It's not the same thing as exfoliating yourself. It's not the same thing as painting yourself up. It's really looking after you in your circumstance to give you the space to be at peace and calm and happy where you are, and healthy as well. So there's lots of different aspects to self-care, and there are things that we need to do to look after our mental health, to look after our stress, to look after our physical health, and to look after the people around us as well. Okay. There's lots of things which can build up stress and worry and difficulty. And I see people a lot of the time, they will tend to just fill up all their time with activities and things that they're wanting to do or wanting to watch, and they don't give much margin just to wind down and relax and have a bit of extra space in their life. Yeah. And people who do that, they can find that as soon as some curveball or something comes along, it could be an illness in the family or financial situation, it's a real scramble to try and absorb that into their regular routine, because their life is already full. It's full of all this busyness, which isn't necessarily important, but they've taken on a lot, or they've filled up all their space in their life and don't have the ability to take on an extra thing all of a sudden. Yeah. So bringing in that margin, I find, can be really useful. It helps you to wind down when things are quiet, but it gives you the space to really build up something when things get busy again as well.
Very true. And I think too, like you say, we don't have any margin, we haven't left anything. It seems like we're on a treadmill in life. It's 24/7. It's important to have that downtime, isn't it?
That's right. And rest is really important. Rest is when you can start to decompress. You'll find your stress levels will come down, your cortisol and your adrenaline will start to come down as well. It'll make you feel less tight and worried and exhausted. It can be a really important part of being able to look after yourself.
All right. So that's like, you get tightness in the chest, you get tightness in your shoulders, and you're not focusing well, and I guess that's all part of it.
Look, lots of people, I see a lot of the time people will come and have problems in their body that are really difficult to explain. And it can be, not always, but it can be something which is as simple as they're really stressed. And it can make people feel unwell. They don't necessarily think that they're stressed because they're not necessarily worrying all the time, but they're carrying it in their body. And sometimes they'll feel their heart beating really fast, or they'll feel short of breath. They might feel tremory or something like that. And now, look, if somebody's experiencing that, they should definitely go and get checked out and have somebody who's a medical professional look at you, because there's some things that can cause those things which are really important as well. But it's important also not to discount that there's other stuff that can be going on which can make you feel that way.
Yeah. And I guess too, you might talk to some people too, and they're going like, I don't feel stressed. I actually really thrive on my job, but I know I'm working 80 to 100 hours a week. That will, I guess, catch up to us at some stage, some point, even though we love what we do, but we're burning the candle at both ends. And,
yeah, look, it can be really individual, because some people will rest by doing nothing, and some people will rest by doing something. And so finding what that thing is for you is really important. So some people love to play sports, for example, and feel great at the end of it, but some people like to read a quiet book and they'll feel great at the end of that. Some people will do work that they just absolutely love, and that's really good. But some people will do a lot of work and be very successful at it, but it can be a real source of stress and burnout for them as well.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways to look after yourself and give yourself margin and give yourself rest. And they're not all going to be the same way. And so finding something that works for you as an individual is really important.
Yeah.
So it's worth trying different things and seeing what works for you. Most people have an idea of how they can get to feeling calm and at peace, and that's something that they can try, and if that doesn't work, try something else. And there's lots of different options.
Okay. Interesting that we're talking about margin again, because at this particular point in time, I know with my family, my kids are big in sport.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, we're not running around on the weekend for the game time. Is there something there, like, we talk about routines in life and things like that, but this has really shoved a wedge in there and stopped motion or movement in a lot of areas, and particularly with kids, and they might be getting a bit, hey, when can I go back and play my sport? They don't know how to release the energy, because obviously they've got a lot more energy than we do.
Yeah, that's right.
We're happy, in some respects. Again, we talk about change and adaptability in our last session. People mightn't like getting more margin. They're happy to be busy.
Yeah, again, it's so long as it's something which is restful to you. So if you really love going out and watching sport and watching your kids play, then that's restful to you, and it's restful to your kids, even though it's active. It's something which helps them to unwind, and that can be really important. It's great that you brought up families, because families really operate as a unit, and so looking after everyone in that family is also looking after individuals in that family, and vice versa.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's a really tricky balance to get sometimes, but it can really help.
It's interesting. I'm a bit of a sports fan, so I do like watching it. I guess over the last few years, you've heard sports psychologists talk about people like Rafael Nadal, how when he serves, he's just doing the old, and thinking like, what the hang is he doing? But he's setting himself up, using routine to set himself up for high pressure situations to win the point. So he goes through that routine to relax him. And I know that's high performance we're talking about. Can you touch a bit more about how that helps?
I mean, that's still a really valid point, even if you're not a high performance athlete. Looking after your environment and being able to set up a routine that you're in control of can really help you to know that your space or your environment or your day is your own. And that's really important for people to be able to relax, to say, I've got control over this, this is my thing, people can't take this away from me. And that can make people feel really comfortable and safe. Another great thing with routines is that it means that you can take away some of the requirement for decision making for part of that day. And that can be something that really builds up on stress. And we see that in studies sometimes, as people have to make a lot of decisions during the day, find that towards the end of the day, they start to get decision fatigue. And if there's certain routines that can take that away and make it easier for you, then that can be really helpful as well, and take out just a little bit of that stress at the same time.
So like at the end of the day, you have dinner and then you decide, might just go and watch a bit of TV with the family. In my case, we all sit around. I find our lounge is a good place to fall asleep when I'm watching TV. Talking about screen time, because that's always a topic. For me, I find I want to have the family there with me
Yeah.
as well, that we're actually watching something and we're interacting,
Yeah.
even though I might be dozing off in the corner
Yes,
sometimes, not always.
I find that screen time can be a bit of a two-edged sword.
Mm.
So I think everything in moderation,
Yeah.
is really important to keep in mind.
That's right.
And that can be really good rest time for you. And obviously you're enjoying it. You're enjoying that time with your family. But sometimes other people in the family, they're not finding it as restful as you do. And that's really important to be aware of, that other people, their rest and their rejuvenation is going to look a lot different to what you might like.
I guess in that instance, it's really important having that conversation with your spouse and your kids.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's really important to keep that communication open. And
Yeah.
that's really healthy to be able to talk to your partner, talk to your kids
Yeah.
about what they need as well, because they could be feeling stressed and they might not be bringing it up because they're not realizing it. But it could be really helpful for them to have a routine that allows them to, say, get extra exercise or spend some time on their own or spend some time with you if that's what they want to do more of. And being open and being really communicative about that can be really helpful as well.
Say, like, sometimes you might get home from a big day and my 13-year-old is just itching to kick the soccer ball. You've got to remain aware of those things, I guess, and put your tiredness aside for a sec.
That's part of living in a family and living
Yeah.
in a community as well. It involves spending time with each other, and often for young ones in there, they're not always great at talking about what's going on for them, but just being there for them can mean just spending time with them, not necessarily having big long conversations with them as well.
Yeah.
And that's an entire thing that we could unpack in a whole nother conversation,
Wouldn't we?
But being open about what you want and then what they want as well can be really important.
Yeah, for sure.
Another way to be looking at routine is to look at it as a habit, because realistically you're building a routine or a habit every day with the things that you keep doing every day, whether you choose to do that thing or whether you fall into doing that thing. Wow. And that's really important to be aware of, especially when it comes to your health, because some people will have a habit where they'll go out and they'll go for a run every day or every couple of days, or they'll do some kind of exercise. They go to the gym, they play on a sports team, and that's part of their routines, part of their habits. But some people will fall into a habit where they won't be getting much exercise, or they won't be drinking water. They'll switch to coffee like I do, or they'll spend a lot of time just on their phones distracted, and that's their routine. Even though they're not necessarily focused on that's what they're doing, that is their habit now, and they've built that without being really aware of it. So one of the really advantageous things to building yourself a good routine is to also make a healthy routine. To make sure that you're eating good food and that you're drinking lots of water. You're avoiding things like smoking, for example. That's a habit and a routine for a lot of people. Alcohol, for example, can be a habit, and that can build up really insidiously. I've seen that a number of times. People are drinking a lot more than they're aware of before they even know it, and that's because they're building that routine, but they're not really choosing that that's the routine that they want, and it just comes on them. So being able to choose your routine also means choosing your habits, and you can choose to make them really good habits, but sometimes if you don't pay attention, they can turn to bad habits as well.
I kind of find with my life, even getting up before my family does, just to spend that real quiet time, I just feel, for my faith, that's a really good time as a leveler to set the tone for the day. Praying with my family too, it's been especially in these times, it's been really good. The great keys, I think we've covered a heap of stuff here, and I'm really looking forward to next time. It should be great. So thank you to Chris. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, Chris.
Great. Thanks.
See you then. Bye.